Sorry for starting a bit late, but I think in the interest of time, we will proceed. My name is Kobna Hansen. I am the Principal Evaluation Officer with African Development Bank and also the UpNode Task Manager. So together with my team, Forte Youssef and Mr. Boubacar Gansori, who I'm sure many of you have met, and of course working with the executive, we've tried to get everybody here. We're going to start by first introducing the UpNode executive. So to do so, I'm going to call upon the UpNode chairperson, Honorable Jeremy Adumahu, who's the UpNode chairperson and is a member of the National Assembly of Benin, Honorable Adumahu. And then he will then introduce the UpNode members, executive members, one by one.
Thank you. Merci au secrétariat de l'UpNode. Je suis Jérémy Adomaou, député à l'Assemblée nationale du Bénin, membre de la commission du plan de l'équipement de la production et président du réseau des parlementaires béninois pour le climat, vice-président du réseau des parlementaires pour l'eau et l'assainissement et président de l'UpNode. Avant le mandat 2021-2023, j'ai été membre du comité exécutif et actuellement 2021-2023, président du comité exécutif. Je voudrais à présent vous inviter l'honorable Élise Pokossi Doumbé, vice-présidente du réseau. Elle est députée du Cameroun. Elle viendra se présenter elle-même.
Alors, bonsoir à tous. Je suis honorable Élise Pokossi Doumbé, députée à l'Assemblée nationale du Cameroun. Je suis à mon deuxième mandat. Je suis donc présidente de la session locale d'UpNode. Je suis vice-présidente du bureau exécutif. Et par ailleurs, je suis aussi membre du bureau exécutif du réseau des parlementaires population et développement, des populations africaines sur population et développement. Je suis membre de la commission des affaires culturelles, sociales et familiales. Et par ailleurs, je suis membre de plusieurs réseaux. Mes combats, c'est la mortalité maternelle, néonatale et infanto-juvénile, l'entrepreneuriat féminin et la parité. Merci.
À présent, je voudrais inviter le sénateur, le docteur Langton Chikuka, trésorier du comité exécutif du réseau UpNode. Il est du Parlement du Zimbabwe.
Fine. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Senator Langton Chikukwa. I am the chairperson of UpNode Zimbabwean chapter, and for UpNode Continental, I am the treasurer of UpNode Continental. Thank you very much.
Thank you. À la suite, please, wait, please. À la suite du trésorier, je voudrais vous présenter l'honorable Porina Mpariwa, qui est du Parlement du Zimbabwe, membre du comité exécutif.
Good afternoon. My name is Porina Mpariwa. I'm a member of parliament in Zimbabwe, the vice chairperson of the local chapter in Zimbabwe, and an executive member of the UpNode Continental body. Thank you.
Ensuite, je voudrais vous présenter l'honorable Moussa Ndjimgo du Cameroun et est membre du comité exécutif.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Honorable Njingu Musa Mbuto, Member of Parliament for Cameroon, and I am the executive member of the APNOD. I just limit it there, as now will be too long. Thank you very much.
À la suite, je voudrais vous présenter l'honorable Omega Sibanda, membre du comité exécutif du Parlement du Zimbabwe.
Good afternoon, honorable members. I'm Honorable Omega Sibanda from Zimbabwe Parliament. I'm a member of Zimbabwe chapter and also serving my second term as in APNOD Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Je voudrais enfin vous présenter l'honorable Anastasia Tandera Mavetera du Parlement du Zimbabwe, membre aussi du comité exécutif.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tatenda Anastasia Mavetera. I'm a member of parliament from Zimbabwe in the local chapter and the Secretary General. And here I'm an executive member. And also I'm the first vice president of the Pan-African Parliament Youth Caucus. Thank you.
Merci. À la suite des membres du comité exécutif, qui sont tous, nous sommes tous des parlementaires, je voudrais à présent vous présenter les représentants des organisations partenaires techniques et financiers qui sont membres du comité avec nous. Il y a le représentant de la BAD, Madame Moussomba Jiane. Comme on dit, c'est que tous les membres du comité ont fini d'abord.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Jane Musumba. I'm the acting manager with the Independent Development Evaluation at the African Development Bank and the former task manager of APNOD.
Thank you. Nous avons le représentant de Clear Afrique francophone qui est aussi avec nous, membre représentant PTF dans le comité.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Donc, moi, c'est Edoué Dimitri Agbojan. Je suis le directeur du CLIER pour l'Afrique francophone. Normalement, le CLIER est représenté par mon collègue Amos Ménard, mais qui n'est pas ici présent. Donc, j'ai le plaisir de représenter le CLIER. Et c'est en fait le réseau CLIER qui est représenté au sein du comité, dont la directrice Madame Candice Morkel est aussi ici présente.
Merci. Enfin, nous avons un membre qui, pour des empêchements de dernière, n'est pas là, membre de l'AFREA, Samuel Kouakou, qui est le troisième représentant des PTF au sein du comité exécutif. Donc voilà présenter les différents membres du comité exécutif du réseau APNOD. Merci. On peut disposer, on peut aller s'asseoir. Ah, photo? Oui. Séance photo pour le comité?
It's okay. I think it's being filmed, so. Oh, okay, but I think somebody's taking. Okay, oh, somebody wants to take a picture. That's fine. They're taking. Good afternoon again, it's me. So now we're going to have a brief presentation on UpNode. And this brief session will be chaired by Honorable Tatenda Mavetera, and I will speak to you about UpNode.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So should I go ahead?
Good afternoon. Bon après-midi. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Tatenda Mavetera. I'm going to be chairing this session whereby we need to speak about who UpNode is, and to present us that is going to be no other than Mr. Kobena. Mr. Kobena, over to you.
Thank you very much. So if you don't mind, I would like to stand. I think it makes it easier for me to present if I'm standing. So with your permission, kindly allow me to stand rather than sit. Thank you. All right. So in terms of the presentation, I'm going to start just with a little bit information about the background of UpNode, you know, the who, the what, the when, the how of UpNode. Then I'll talk a bit about what UpNode stands for. What are the objectives of UpNode? What does this network seek to do? Then highlight a bit about the theory of change of UpNode. You know, how does UpNode plan to achieve what it seeks to do? How does it plan to basically get its mission achieved, its mandate executed? Then talk a bit about, you know, some of the central parts of UpNode. That is UpNode linking members of parliament to evaluative knowledge, to evidence, right, that they can use to enhance oversight in the parliament, which ultimately should get us to good decisions, good policies, and effective development. But I think the presentation will not be meaningful. We'll also be talking about who can join UpNode, and what are some of the benefits of being a member of UpNode. I think once I've done that, we'll look a bit of the highlights and the milestones of UpNode. UpNode has been around since 2014, so what has UpNode managed to do over the years? And how has UpNode managed, especially within this revised landscape of financial unpredictability? Next, we'll talk about that as resource mobilization, which I guess we all know that is important. And then we'll take a forward-looking approach at UpNode. So, you know, where, when, how, what, who, why UpNode? UpNode basically was launched or born in 2014 on the fringes of the 7th AFREA, which is the African Evaluation Association conference, which took place in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And at that conference, there happened to be 25 members of parliament from different African countries who were there. And somehow it dawned on them that not only was, you know, evaluation very central to national decision making, but also parliamentarians had a critical role in ensuring that, you know, parliaments utilized evaluation for their oversight, that parliaments utilized evaluation and evidence for their budgeting, that parliaments used evaluation and evidence to shape decisions and to shape policy. So they came together with members from the African Development Bank, including the then Evaluator General, who was also at the conference, to then create UpNode. UpNode was subsequently launched formally in 2014, and I'll come to talk about that a bit. So as a network, what does UpNode seek to do? I did talk about these 25 individuals from 7 countries, if I should add, thinking about the essence of evaluation and its centrality to ensuring that policies, decisions are taken in a very effective and efficient manner. So UpNode as a network seeks to not only promote the use of evaluation in national decision making, but it also seeks to how to create this learning culture, how to mainstream evaluation, and how to ensure that we learn from results. Right? That if we do that, then as we edge towards 2030, we all know about the SDGs, then we're pushing towards ensuring that as national parliaments, as a continent, we're moving in the right direction, ensuring that we're able to achieve our targets. Now, in terms of the governance of UpNode, we just met the executives who are here. So UpNode executive currently 7 members of parliament and 3 development partners. It was felt that the development partners are key, right, players as far as moving forward, helping parliaments adopt and embrace a learning culture. Hence, having the development partners as part of the executive. But then this had to be owned by the members of parliament themselves. Hence, the bulk of the executive are actually sitting members of parliament. But it is not only limited to sitting members of parliament. And when I come to talk of the membership, I'll get into that. The executive serves a 2-year term. So the current executive was voted in 2021, and they will serve through until 2023, which is next year, where we'll have another election. That said, their mandate can be renewed twice. So basically, they could serve to 2023 and be re-elected to serve from 2023 to 2025. We felt that the network felt that was good governance, and sometimes it also helps for institutionalization, of memory, and then to show that things move seamlessly. Because we're also aware that one of the challenges of parliament is that sometimes there tends to be a high turnover at every election. So what are some of the objectives of UpNode? And I think there's 7 central objectives to UpNode, but at the heart of UpNode is the need for it as a network, basically, right, to enhance and advance the use of evaluation to ensure development effectiveness and inclusive growth. Now, how does UpNode plan to do this? It plans to sensitize members of parliament about the value proposition of evaluation, about the value of evaluation within parliamentary processes, ensuring that it informs decisions, ensuring that it informs budgets, ensuring that it informs policies. But it also seeks to support members of parliament to mainstream evidence use and evaluation within national parliaments. Going beyond that, we know that some parliaments and some countries are far more advanced when it comes to issues of evidence use than others. So having them share experiences, having them share knowledge is important so that somebody does not have to reinvent the wheel. So if something is being done excellently, let's say in the Parliament of South Africa, can it help the Parliament of Madagascar? If something is being done brilliantly by the Parliament of Benin, can it inform the Parliament of Ghana? So this ability to learn from each other is something that is very important to UpNode. Also, it was felt that it's important for UpNode to bridge the gap between members of parliament who utilize evidence and evaluators who are the ones that normally churn out this evidence, right? Because we don't want the evidence that is churned out, sometimes very excellent information, to sit and gather dust on a certain shelf, right? So if you can bring the two together, then that evidence is taken up by decision and policy makers, and ultimately then helps spur what the country needs in terms of moving forward, rather than it sitting on a shelf someplace. As a network, UpNode also seeks to enhance the capacity of members of parliament such that they can better demand and subsequently utilize that evaluation. So part of what UpNode does, and when I come to talk to this, is working with its partners. You just heard CLARE AA, CLARE FA, UN Women, UNICEF, UNDP, and a host of other partners. It supports these parliamentarians to build their capacity, because we recognize that parliamentarians are not necessarily evaluators, nor does the network seek to turn parliamentarians into evaluators, but it wants them to have an appreciation for evidence use such that they can then seriously, embrace it and use it and build that culture of evaluation throughout their parliaments. More importantly, since we seek to have development effectiveness and inclusive growth, that all country-led evaluations should reflect issues of gender, issues of vulnerability, and issues of equitable development results, that no one needs to be left behind, right? That everybody has to be included. And we believe that if this is done right, as a network working closely with national parliaments, right, then it puts us as a continent on a better footing. Now, what is the theory of change that UpNode has? Now, if you look at the theory of change that we have here, it's pretty simple. UpNode believes that through issues of advocacy, knowledge sharing, and capacity building, it will support parliaments enhance their oversight function. Of course, it's not going to do it alone. UpNode is going to work closely with evaluators who supply the information or the evidence that is needed. And then again, partnering with civil society, because the citizens, right, you get all the lawmakers on board, all the representatives on board, then what we begin to see is that parliaments now make greater use of evaluations for their oversight. We begin to see strengthened national evaluation systems, stronger accountability and democratic systems, and ultimately this leads us to the development effectiveness and inclusive growth that UpNode seeks to achieve. Now, how does UpNode do some of this? UpNode has a multi-pronged approach to doing this. So first, of course, there's the UpNode online presence. And so UpNode has a website, UpNode is big on Twitter, UpNode has a LinkedIn group, and through this, UpNode then engages with a host of individuals, both parliamentarians and other stakeholders who are not necessarily parliamentarians, but who are active in the evaluation capacity development space. UpNode also engages in a lot of knowledge dissemination. So as a network, UpNode has a weekly flyer that goes out, and it serves to inform members, about what UpNode is doing on a weekly basis, or what UpNode partners are doing, what is important. UpNode has a quarterly newsletter that goes out, 4 times a year, and it serves to do the same thing. Then, of course, beyond that, because UpNode is hosted by the African Development Bank, there's the bank's Evaluation Matters, which is a quarterly magazine, right? And sometimes it covers topical issues that are meaningful for members of parliament. And UpNode makes sure that this information gets to parliamentarians and parliaments in a very timely manner. But having information is not enough, right? So members' capacity need to be built such that they can better utilize this information. So one of the key things about UpNode is also the capacity development and partnerships. So UpNode collaborates with CLARE Anglophone Africa, that is situated in Wits University in South Africa, and the director of CLARE AA is here with us, Dr. Candice Morkel. It also collaborates with CLARE Francophone Africa, which sits in CESAC, Dakar, and the director, Dr. Edoe, is also here with us. It works closely with Twende Mbele, and as you know, Twende Mbele is a partnership of countries. So there's South Africa, there's Uganda, there's Ghana, there's Benin, and there's Kenya, and there's Niger, right? And so UpNode also works closely with them, including AFRIA, Réseau Francophone d'Évaluation. Pardon, my French is not good, and I know the president of RFA is here. I tried to pronounce it, but I'm sure I didn't get it right. I hope you pardon me. It also works closely with UNICEF. And I must say that the regional evaluation advisor for UNICEF Western Central Africa is also here, Michele Tassila. It works with UNDP, works closely with UN Women. So UpNode agrees that sometimes there's a need to partner, sometimes there's a need to collaborate, sometimes there's a need to broker, and sometimes there's a need to go at it alone. But we also recognize that evaluation and capacity building is such a big space and it takes time, and no one person can get it alone. Hence, the reason that UpNode really privileges partnerships and feels it's very important. Then there's the knowledge events. We sincerely believe at UpNode that bringing people face to face is also very critical, such as we've done here, right? That looking somebody in the eye and talking to them is very important. So UpNode, again, finds knowledge events very important. So it works closely with, let's say, the African Development Bank on its evaluation weeks that happens every other year, this year being one. The G-Local Evaluation Week, UpNode has been very strong there, working with national parliaments, working with our partners. UNDP's NEC, AFRIA, the Ideas Congress, and of course, here, the UpNode Annual General Meeting. Beyond that, we also feel some targeted training is important, right? Such as we'll be having this immediately after this session. So building members' capacity strategically and periodically, systematically, does help. Because some people more than others may be well-versed with evaluation, others not so. But ensuring that capacity is built along all the three levels, the individual, the institutional, and the enabling environment, it makes it very important. You don't want to build the capacity of only a few people and not others. Then you create certain imbalances. So together, UpNode does this. But who can be an UpNode member? And this picture is from 2019, so I'm sure some of you may see yourselves in it. Actually, anybody can be an UpNode member. It is open not only to parliamentarians. So there are 5 broad categories of UpNode membership. First and foremost, we have what we call the founding members. If you remember, I did point out that there were 25 individuals from 7 countries who were in Yaoundé, Cameroon in 2014, and they basically, together with the African Bank, signed and then gave birth to UpNode. So they are the founding, quote-unquote, founding members of UpNode. Some of the founding members are still sitting parliamentarians, like Honorable Pokosi Doumbé. She is still in parliament. Others are no longer members of parliament, but they're still very much active in UpNode. Then we have the full members, and these are sitting members of parliament and senators. We have our associate members, because we know of the turnover in parliaments. Former MPs, we don't want them to take that institutional knowledge away, so we try to ensure that they are part of the network, so they are there, together with individuals, institutions, and organizations that want to join UpNode. But UpNode is not only limited to the continent of Africa. So there are room for affiliate members. So if somebody is a non-African sitting member of parliament, whether you're in Japan, you're in the US, you're in Brazil, and you want to join UpNode, you are welcome to join UpNode, because we believe that knowledge is not centered in any one place, right? I mean, as the saying goes, knowledge is like the baobab tree. It's big, no one person can embrace it. So having different people bring their heads together actually is a good thing. Then finally, we have our partners, the UpNode partners. And so here again, we have organizations, institutions, companies, NGOs of exceptional value and keen interest to UpNode, and who are willing to assist the network either technically, financially, or in kind. And I think when I talk more, you understand what I mean by that. Now, but why should one even bother to join UpNode? Well, first and foremost, I think the key thing is learning, right? As a member of UpNode, whether you're an individual MP or you're a parliament as an institution, the access to the shared know-how the new and tacit ideas that you may not get, what is in people's heads, because you get to interact with somebody who's been in parliament for, let's say, 15 years, 20 years, who's gone through the issues that you as a new parliamentarian might be confronting. That is not written in any book anywhere, right? And having that ability to engage that person face to face makes a huge difference. So the learning component is very critical. Now, issues of ideation, right? Where you can leverage the network and members of the network, not only to dialogue and exchange of critical issues, whether they are emerging or current, whether it's climate change or the African continental free trade area. And you can do this either in person or virtually, because the network gives you that opportunity to do that, is another very important thing. Capacity development. I did mention this before. Building the capacity of individuals of the network is critical, and this is something that UpNode also believes that is a key reason why somebody should want to be with UpNode. Then there's the networking part, building this coalition of individuals that you can leverage today, tomorrow, and into the future. Because even when people cease to become parliamentarians, they don't cease to lose their experience and the knowledge and the insights. And I think this is something that you can tap into, and we feel it's very critical for members joining UpNode. Then finally, you have fit-for-purpose solutions. Solutions that are nuanced, context-specific, right, and adaptable, so that you can take something being done that has worked in South Africa, plug it into, let's say, Botswana, plug it into Zimbabwe, take something that has worked excellently in Mauritius, plug it into Madagascar, take something that's worked excellently in Senegal, and then adapt it and use it in Mali. I mean, that fit-for-purpose solutions, right, often seem to work better than quote-unquote best solutions, because what is best in one place may not necessarily be best in another place. And this is something that UpNode gives you. So, what have been some of the milestones in UpNode? In 2014, it was launched in Yaoundé, and I know the screen is small and you can't read everything, so I won't. But the first annual general meeting was hosted by the African Development Bank in Abidjan in 2015. So it was at that meeting where the first UpNode executive committee was elected. That year, UpNode participated in the global evaluation conference that took place in Nepal, and it was out of that meeting that the Global Parliamentarians Forum on Evaluation was born. So UpNode was critical to having GPFE come into fruition. In 2016, the Parliament of Zimbabwe hosted UpNode. So UpNode the AGM was held in Harare. Right? That same year, members of UpNode went to Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, as part of the Eval Partners Global Forum. Of course, UpNode has always worked closely with AFREA, so they had the 8th AFREA conference. Members participated in the high-level meeting on evaluation in New York, the What Works Global Summit in UK, Evidence Works Global Summit, again in UK. In 2017, the 3rd annual general meeting was held in Khartoum, Sudan. The Parliament of Sudan hosted UpNode. Again, that's a year the second executive was voted in, and members participated in a number of global and regional events to not only enhance the visibility of UpNode, but also to see and grow the footprint of UpNode. We come to 2018, the Parliament of Gabon hosted UpNode, right? So the annual general meeting was held in Libreville, Gabon. That year, there was Eval Colombo that was held in Sri Lanka, Colombo, Sri Lanka, and UpNode made a big representation there. The then Vice President of UpNode actually delivered the keynote address at Eval Colombo. That was Honorable Evelyn Mpaki Kabule from Uganda. Then in 2019, UpNode was supposed to have held the annual general meeting in Tanzania, but at the very last minute, there was a bit of discrepancy, so that didn't happen. And And so it was held in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, again hosted by the African Development Bank. That year, APNOD did participate in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference, which was held in Kampala, and a host of other events, including the Ideas Conference, which took place in Prague, including the NEC that took place in Egypt, such that APNOD could engage at the highest level with different actors. Of course, then COVID came and totally turned everybody's head upside down. So in 2020, unfortunately, there was no APNOD annual general meeting. That, I must point out, in 2019, the House of Councillors of Morocco had offered to host the annual general meeting in 2020. When COVID hit, they generously offered to re-host the conference in 2021. But we realized that in 2021, COVID was still ravaging. So they re-offered to host in 2022, which brings us here. So big ups to the House of Councillors of Morocco for that. Now, given all this, what have been some of the key, and I just want to mention a few, because I'm sure over the 3 days you'll hear more outcomes of this. Now, first and foremost, there's been a lot of enhanced visibility and footprint of APNOD. I mentioned by saying that APNOD started with 7 countries, 25 members. I mean, today, APNOD is in all the 4 or 5 corners, depending on which geographical definition you're using, of the continent. There's a lot of country ownership and buy-in. As the executives were introducing themselves, people said, I am the president of the APNOD national chapter in Cameroon. I am the president of APNOD chapter in Benin, in this country, in that country. So APNOD has gone from being just a continental organization to actually drilling down and having country chapters that are driving the agenda forward, but at the country level. APNOD has managed to, working with its partners, train over 550 members of parliament across the continent. I mean, this cadre of evidence-use champions are doing excellently, and we've seen a number of countries through APNOD embed evaluation in their national constitutions, have explicit national evaluation policies created, and it all came out of this process. And in so doing, I mean, the latest was actually Cote d'Ivoire, who only got their embedded evaluation in their constitution just this year, right? I mean, just how much APNOD has made an impact. But even more importantly, APNOD has become that trusted broker on evaluation capacity development and has become that partner of choice on the continent. So it was no surprise when, for example, USAID was seeking a partner to work with on evaluation capacity development. They came straight to APNOD and said, look, we want to partner with you. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, so let's work together. Now, how has APNOD managed? I believe the first thing has been the commitment and leadership. I talked about in 2015, APNOD was hosted by the Parliament of Zimbabwe. I think as the executive were being introduced, you saw how many were from Zimbabwe. The Speaker of Zimbabwe is at this AGM and has been, at almost everyone since 2015. It shows that commitment at that highest level, which then ensures that, once you have that leadership, right, it helps with all these coalitions of change within the national parliament as evaluation is used in different committees, defining goals, but also as a network, what is happening in, let's say, Cameroon, what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire, we begin to see short-term results that are evident to everybody, that are relatable, so people then see the benefit of the network. There's been a lot of learning and innovation, right? As people get access to information, people discover what works, what does not work, and why, they're able to adapt this, right, fine-tune it, and ultimately use it, giving them that fit-for-purpose solutions that are needed. Then, of course, there's all the evaluation that has come into it. So that mainstreaming evaluation in the work people do in parliaments, leveraging data, either to course correct things that are going on in parliament or to enhance the results of activities. This has all been central to some of what UpNode has managed. Then the financing. We all recognize that financing is very difficult, and we're in a landscape of a bit of financial unpredictability. So UpNode, in doing this, the executive has had to think strategically and also, carefully, always scanning the environment, identifying possibilities, identifying low-hanging fruits, and seizing upon that, right? So it sort of blended, external funding, membership fees, partnerships to get things moving forward. But as an external catalyst, what we've also seen is that there's all this technical knowledge reforms, that have supported and continue to complement homegrown efforts, right? And then this is opening up new corporations with different actors who, in 2014, were not necessarily part of UpNode. Now, it brings us to a key question that seems to come up every year at the UpNode annual general meeting. That is an issue of resource. We know that to have good programming, right, you need resource mobilization, and then that leads to that delivery and impact. So that we can do. So UpNode, again, tries to do this in a multi-pronged way. UpNode relies on donor support, membership fees, because we believe that members have to own it, right? And once they own it, it makes it easier for them to speak to donors, speak to partners, and get there. Work with partners who sometimes provide technical support, some provide time, sometimes provide cash, sometimes provide in-kind support. And also work with the hosts of the AGMs. So just to give you a rough picture in terms of funding that has come through UpNode over the years. In 2015, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave UpNode $150,000. And I think this was critical to set UpNode on a good footing, get UpNode to get its strategic plan done, get UpNode to basically enhance some of its visibility, and get certain things done. Subsequently, the Korean Trust Fund at the African Development Bank threw in approximately $75,000, which then really got the network on its feet. But members of the network themselves felt, we don't want to be a charity organization. So they levied upon themselves that individual members would pay $250 a year, and institutional members, such as parliaments, would pay $5,000. Right? So over the years, members have also thrown in approximately $60,000. Then the partners who've contributed cash, time, in-kind support, they've thrown in over $500,000. And there are a host of partners. I've listed a few. There's CLARE Anglophone Africa, there's CLARE Francophone Africa, there's IDEV at the African Development Bank, there's Twende Mbele, there's RFA, there's UNICEF, there's UN Women, there's UNDP, there's EVAL Partners, there's EVAL Indigenous. I mean, there's quite a host of people, but they've also done this. But I think what has been priceless has been the national parliaments that have hosted the AGM. So, of course, there's been Zimbabwe, there's been Sudan, there's been Gabon, there's been Morocco, and of course, there's been the African Development Bank. I think to try and put a price tag on that would be a disservice. Hence, we claim this is priceless. And I'm sure you will agree, since you've been here, that the hosts have taken good care of you, and that is how it's been in many other AGMs. So what do we do going forward? Yes, as a network, you need to recognize the triumphs, but also be mindful of how we sustain these triumphs. At the same time, there's a need to recognize, anticipate the changing landscape, If we look at what is happening globally, getting access to resources is not easy. And this is something that, as a network, we must be mindful of. We also have to be aware that no one size fits all. So in terms of strategy, right, there's a need for us to blend solutions, especially, within this revised landscape. What do we do? How do we enhance existing partnerships? Right, I'd mentioned the UNICEFs, the CLARE AAs, the CLARE FAs, the UNDPs, but also how do we identify new partners, like we just did with USAID? How do we identify opportunities and then network these to scale? It's important. But even more importantly, given the revised landscape within which the network finds itself, how do we rethink, right, how we select from a host of approaches for handling the challenges? So where does UpNode partner? When will UpNode broker? When will UpNode go at it alone? And when will UpNode collaborate? I mean, this becomes very important, and thank you for listening. To get in touch with UpNode, you can do that via mail, via email, via Twitter, or via the webpage. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. This was Mr. Kobina T. Hanson, who is the UpNode Task Manager for IDEF and also Africa Development Bank. Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. He was presenting on who we are, what we do, objectives, and also the vision that UpNode has. According to the program that I have here, we are supposed to break for tea. And as we break for tea, we'll then come and have another presentation, and then we'll have a plenary soon after. So, okay, I'm being guided here to say if there are any people that have got questions, maybe we can then open for plenary now. Are there any questions? If not, then maybe we can then be able... Okay, over to you, sir.
Oui,
Please
bonjour.
kindly introduce yourself.
Oui, bonjour, moi je suis Michele Tersila, je suis le conseiller régional pour l'évaluation de l'Afrique de l'Est et du Centre pour l'UNICEF. Je voudrais juste revenir sur le point, sur la mobilisation des ressources combinées. Moi, je crois que ça sera plus facile d'attirer des fonds lorsque vous pourriez, au-delà bien évidemment de cette très belle présentation que j'ai beaucoup appréciée, si vous pouvez fournir des exemples sur comment l'UpNode a contribué, par exemple, à des prises de décision, à un changement de culture au sein, peut-être pas de tous les parlements qui sont représentés ici, mais au moins de 2 ou 3. On parle beaucoup d'évidence et je crois qu'un evidence-based resource mobilization est votre meilleur atout. Donc je ne sais pas s'il y a eu un effort de documenter, de capitaliser. Probablement il y a des progrès qui ont été faits, qui ne se sont pas traduits nécessairement dans une nouvelle loi prise sur la base d'évidence, mais capitaliser progrès au-delà de la taille de progrès eux-mêmes, ça pourrait être, à mon avis, une des solutions, quand même une des actions qui pourrait être prise. Sinon, félicitations. Moi, j'espère qu'il y aura de plus en plus d'autres pays. Je n'ai pas encore compris quels sont les pays qui ne font pas partie de l'UpNode. Parce que moi, en tant qu'UNICEF, par exemple, étant donné qu'on est présent pratiquement dans tous les pays du monde, y compris dans notre région, moi, je m'occupe de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et du Centre. Je pourrais aussi, pourquoi pas, parce que je suis un allié, un ami de l'UpNode, me mobiliser beaucoup plus pour que mes bureaux pays, dans les pays qui manquent et qui n'ont pas adhéré à l'association, qu'ils puissent le faire. Donc je ne sais pas si vous pourriez même, peut-être avant la fin de la session d'aujourd'hui, nous dire quels sont les pays qui ne se sont pas encore manifestés et qui ne sont pas là encore, de manière qu'on puisse déjà commencer à réfléchir, même dans les jours à venir, sur comment on pourrait s'assurer que quand même... 2-3 pays de plus, pourquoi pas dans l'immédiat, dans les prochains 6 mois, puissent déjà commencer à faire partie du réseau. Parce que sinon, si on commence à voir 4 ou 5 Afriques à vitesse différente, parce qu'il y a ceux qui sont là depuis toujours, ceux qui viennent de se joindre, et après il y a les autres, et on ne sait pas ce qui se passe. Ça serait bien aussi de ramener un peu de symétrie. Donc merci beaucoup encore une fois pour l'invitation.
Merci. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Joseph Esimun Sanje from Zambia. Thank you so much, Dr. Kovena, for an excellent presentation. And my question is coming from the theory of change. I think the final result there is African development effectiveness. My question is, how can our development be effective given the differential baselines and metrics that are used to measure development effectiveness in different countries, vis-a-vis, even when we look at the SDGs, we find that countries are starting from different platforms. Could we try to address where we are starting from and where we are ending for us to say this is effective? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. Let me allow Mr. Kobena to respond to those 2 submissions.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Tatenda. Thank you, Michele. We really appreciate the support of UNICEF, and I think, like you did mention, before we're done, I will give you a list of all the countries that have joined UpNode and the ones that we are still hoping to get them to join UpNode. And I think if UNICEF can use its leveraging power to get more countries to join UpNode, I think that will be very excellent. And I think we appreciate that. Thank you so much. With regard to the question from Honorable Joseph from Zambia, I think you asked a valid question. We do know that all African countries are not starting or do not have the same footing, right? We have countries that are, emerging. We have countries that are fragile or in transition. So there are a bunch of. But what we do believe at UpNode is that irrespective of where you are, right, ensuring that evidence is utilized systematically, mainstreaming evidence use plays a big role in lifting the country up. So we will get to realize that maybe come 2030, there are countries that may achieve all their SDGs and some that will not achieve all. I don't think any of them can be considered a failure in that sense, even though some will do better than others. And I think it's the same recognition that we have here, that by embracing that evaluation culture, so working with evaluators, working with parliamentarians, such that it enhances oversight function within Parliament, including them holding the executive accountable. Because one of the things we saw, especially with COVID, is, if I can use this word, there was a lot of executive capture, right? Because it was a crisis. So the executive says, nobody travels. Executive says this, executive says that, and it didn't have to go through Parliament, right? But now that COVID is basically, parliaments now have to go back and then reassert their role of being the ones that provide that oversight. And I think that having members of Parliament who systematically demand and utilize evidence is a key step in ensuring that. And them having or making sure that country-led evaluations incorporate issues of gender, acknowledge issues of gender, vulnerability, inclusive, makes it inclusive, right? And all these things will then push the country. So I don't think that the argument is ensuring that everybody is at the same starting line, but it's actually that irrespective of where you are, that this will lift you and then take you to the next step. Thank you. And I think that actually, in the next session that we're having on evidence use, I think some of what you're saying is actually going to come out better, and Professor Goldman would maybe do a better job than I have done in addressing your question, but it's going to get there. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobina. And thank you very much for those that had to bring in some submissions. At this juncture, let us break for tea. I'm sure, what is the time now? So that we can then be timely and timeous in what we're going to be doing. What is the time? It's 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 3:02. Okay. So may we please break and come back at 3:30? At 3:30, may we please come through and we come back at 3:30, and then we have the next session. Thank you very much.